Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell by the title, in this video, I'm going to be talking about why I can't stand Black conservatives and Black liberals. And I actually took some notes, so I'm going to be referring to them every now and then, so bear with me here. Okay, so one of the reasons I do not like Black conservatives is the fact that they tend to be very nonchalant and passive about racism, white supremacy, and they sweep issues of racism, white supremacy under the bus. They don't care as much. They're very, brush off the shoulder, and they kind of like to tell Black liberals that it's all in their head, or they are focusing too much on racism, white supremacy, and life is not all about racism, white supremacy. Stop pulling the race card, stop reaching for things that aren't there. And that just really annoys me because they really like to act as if every time we talk about a situation of racial injustice or social injustice, or we're for a social cause to make things better, or so we claim, that all of a sudden it's just us playing victim and us, just pulling things out of our behinds and, no substance. And that is not always the case. And the way they just blindly shrug it off and say, you guys are crazy, you guys are reaching too much, you guys are doing the most, and get over yourself. There's nothing racial about what people like Trump say. That's all in your head. I find that to be so problematic, and they don't realize that they're also doing themselves a disservice. Now, if you don't know, there is this new wave of young Black conservatives and, led by Candace Owens, because she's the loudest voice at this point of Black conservatism. And, she has been calling this movement Blexit, the Blexit movement that she started, where Black people are now leaving the liberal or Democratic side of politics and going over or crossing over to a conservative point or to a Republican standpoint. And basically Black people are just, leaving liberalism and ending their ties and allegiance to the Democratic Party completely and just going to do something as she claims is different. Her quote was, "Are we such punks that we can't try something different?" And although I'm saying, yes, if one way doesn't work for you, try something different. But let's just be honest, the Republicans have not done anything for us. So this whole Brexit thing, I've seen a couple of Vice videos where you have Black liberals debate Black conservatives, why there's this new wave of Black conservatives. And one thing I noticed with the new wave of Brexiters is the fact that these Brexiters are young, millennial, impressionable. And it's honestly what I see with this Brexit movement and this new wave of Black Trump supporters. It sounds like a cult. It really is cultish because, they definitely left liberalism or Democratic side, even if they've always had somewhat conservative views. They left that side because, they were so tired of being, bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray, and things like that. And look, I see their point somewhat because, Democrats have told us, that they were going to fix things. They promised us a lot of stuff. They use trigger words when it comes time for election. Things like, oh, that other side is racist, so vote for me and I actually like you. And yes, they use that rhetoric. They use trigger words like that. However, Republicans and conservatives never do anything for us either. Okay? That's the problem I have with these new quote-unquote Brexiters, and they get mad when they're being called coons and bedwenches. And in these Vice videos that I'm going to leave in the description box for you, the reasons I hear, or at least from the women, the reasons I hear for these Black women now Brexiting is because, oh, I'm a Second Amendment rights activist or advocate. And nothing's wrong with Second Amendment rights. Or I think I've always had these political views. Oh, I just feel like a proud American when I, wear the MAGA hat. Or, I'm a proud American and I'm patriotic to this country. And, they have taught you not to love that flag. Democrats have taught you not to love the American flag. You're American. We are just as American as everyone else. And look, there is nothing wrong with wanting to identify as a patriotic American, but let's just be real. What I have a problem with these Black conservatives, especially those who are so patriotic to this country and loyal to this country, the problem I have with it is that they are patriotic in the sense where they feel like their same patriotism is aligned with or can align with or be the same way as traditional white conservative patriotism. loving guns, or, loving this country. Don't protest, just follow suit and everything will be good. But they really, they do themselves a disservice and they don't even realize it. And you don't have to be so social justice warrior, social justice person in order to, care about your issues, but to completely sweep your issues under the rug is problematic. Another thing I don't like about them is that they don't want to call out white conservatives for their part or their role in their perpetuation of racism, white supremacy. They claim in the Vice videos that I saw, they claim, oh yeah, we call them out when they do something problematic or say something problematic about Black people or say something wrong. I don't see them calling anything out. I see them caping more so than I see them calling out. They'll say that, oh, you liberals, what about when Hillary Clinton called you super predators? We've actually called that out. Well, I'm moderate now, but I consider myself more socially liberal. We call that out, actually. We call everybody out nowadays, okay? But I don't see a lot of conservatives or Black conservatives calling out anti-Black or racist white conservatives. I see them getting lovey-dovey with them. I see them all lives mattering them. I see them caping for them. And they're saying, well, here's what the problem is on the liberal side. I see a lot of deflection. And look, liberals aren't innocent. They're not. Black liberals are not innocent. But let's just be honest. I see a lot more caping than calling out on the Black conservative side when people do something wrong in the hands of Black people. And I see a level of anti-Blackness. And yes, there is a level of white validation that you claim that is not there. In one of the Vice videos, a girl was crying who was a Trump supporter and wore a shirt on campus that she got mocked for. She said that she was adopted by white folks in Colorado. One Second Amendment rights conservative Black woman says she grew up in a predominantly white town. Go figure. And of course, you have some of these liberals who will say, see, that's the problem. That's why we don't like white people adopting Black kids. That's why we, need to not live around white folks. They will brainwash us and corrupt us. And look, I wouldn't hold it past that being some form of influence. I'm not saying that that can't be some form of influence, okay? Let's just be honest. When you're around a certain environment or grew up around a certain environment, some things happen. But let's just be honest. I even hear from Black conservatives who are now new Black conservatives saying, I grew up at the poorest of the poor and now I'm here. And, I didn't have to rely on like Democrats and whatnot. Another thing that really bothers me about Black conservatives is that they really think that they're getting a better deal on the other side. They think that because, oh, Democrats didn't do anything for us. They just want our votes and they pander to us. And yes, that is true. But they really think that by voting Republican, voting Trump, that something is going to change for them. Trump doesn't care about you. Trump doesn't plan on doing anything for you. And they say, what about Ben Carson? He put Ben Carson in charge of HUD and, Omarosa in charge of the Black outreach. And that's what they're doing. Just like you claim that they use Black oppression, the Democrats use Black oppression and, Black issues to garner votes. The Republicans or conservatives, they put a token Black face that they like as the head of something and think they made it, okay? This is why we call out tokenism, okay? Whether these people were liberal or conservative, we call out tokenism. They're tokenizing you. And even if they're tokenizing you because there's so few Black people on their side, trust me, they wouldn't be putting you in special positions. And even if they did, they're doing it to fuel an agenda just like you claim the Democrats are. They don't care about us. What I like about the new age Black independent voters, although they may still vote Democratic, is that they see the BS on both sides and they call it out, okay? Conservatives, I only see you calling out problems on the liberal side, but what I notice from liberals or Black independents and Black moderates like myself, we call BS on both sides. What I don't like about conservatism is the fact of its very closed-minded, individualist, selfish way of thinking, and the fact that they believe that they control the narrative on what's normal, what's good, what's traditional, what should exist and what shouldn't exist. You know what I'm saying? That's what I don't like about it. And you could say, oh, that's not all conservatives. That's not who I am. That really isn't. You always seem to complain when somebody's enacting an idea or a choice that's different from yours or what you agree with. And that's what I don't like about conservatism. That's what made me socially liberal at one point. That's what made me very liberal at one point, because I could not take the closed-mindedness that was going on the conservative side. And there's just the sweeping issues under the rug nonchalantly because You either don't want to face it or you don't face it. Another thing I don't like is this excessive American patriotism, this love they have for America and, you know, being patriotic to America and thinking that things like Colin Kaepernick silently protesting, you know, the flag based on the injustice that people of color, specifically Black people, face at the hand of police and at the hand of authority figures. They think that, oh, we hate the flag, we hate America, and their undying patriotism to America. And look, I think Black people want to get to a point where we can all say we are happy and proud Americans, but we can't get there just by saying it. We need to be treated like that. We're not all treated like Americans. It's funny how these same conservative people say that they love America so much, but America doesn't love us back. And you just feel like by us protesting against why America doesn't love us back is somewhat we hate America. And look, I know that there are a few extremist Black folks who will probably trolls on the internet who say, oh, I hate America, F America. And there are some people like the Nature Boys of the world who fled to Costa Rica and said, you know, I couldn't take it anymore. And I'm saying, I understand it and I don't necessarily blame her. Look, I may not love America for everything it is, but I tolerate America, and I'm going to say that things can happen here. So I'm not going to just pack up and leave, you know, unless I really wanted to. You know, that is just making a very impulsive decision based on emotion. So I look at the Nature Boys of the world and this one woman who, I forgot her name, but this one woman who left America because she couldn't take the racism anymore. I just kind of looked at her as someone who just ran away. You drained out all your life savings and you ran away. Like, and now you're starting from the bottom at a white-owned place. Like, you're going to be finding yourself dealing with the same problem. Like, that whole fleeing to a jungle somewhere, trust me, you know what I'm saying? It's too much. They really think that they could be just as American as white people are. They're so all lives matter. And they really don't know that they do themselves a disservice, okay? They really believe that, you know, screaming all lives matter means they're wholesome, moral people. And look, nothing is wrong with believing all lives matter. But when we say things like Black lives matter, it's because our lives have not really mattered to this country. In a lot of ways, our lives have not really mattered. So we have to get the message out there that, look, we matter too. That's what we mean when we say Black lives matter. And how can all lives matter if Black lives don't? But for some reason, you same Black conservatives who think just the way as white conservatives do, that if we scream Black lives matter, for some reason, we're excluding everyone. We have been so inclusive with everyone for the longest. We've been the main inclusive ones. That's how we've been conditioned. And there's nothing wrong with being inclusive, but it's always been a one-way street with us. No one is playing fair with us, but when we say, okay, we're not going to play fair with anyone else, Black conservatives look at us sideways. And this is why they get liked by white conservatives. I've seen comments under the Vice video about Black conservatives, like from these white men and white people saying, see, conservatives don't just look at you and see your color. They don't see color, and they fail to realize what that truly means. That color blindness, that would have worked at one point, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. It's really just to turn a blind eye towards issues and just say, I don't see color, so I don't see your problems that come with your color. I'm going to ignore your problems, and I'm going to, you know, not feel like I am the bad person by, you know, saying, I don't see color, so I don't see you as Black. And look, at one point, that would have meant something to me. That does mean well. So if you don't see my color, you can't judge me on it. Or if you look past how I look, you can't judge me on how I look. And I understand that, because the people who do see color tend to see that, you know, they probably don't like you based off that. So if they say, I don't see color, that means they can judge you on your character. But I feel like that argument is old. I feel like that's a scapegoat. I feel like that is useless. So that makes absolutely no sense when they say, I don't see color. And the Black conservatives that just follow them to just annoy the hell out of me. You know what I'm saying? Another thing too, they like to point out the bigotry and the underlying racism and, you know, the anti-Blackness on the Democratic liberal side as if the Republicans and conservatives love them. The Republicans and conservatives, they give them these praises and these props when they say something conservative, or at least that side or are agreeable with their ideologies. So that's why you hear certain white conservatives say, oh, I like Ben Carson. Oh, I like Condoleezza Rice. Oh, I like Candace Owens. You know, white conservative men love Black conservative people as long as they agree with them, as long as those Black conservatives say things they like to hear. And of course, it's on the liberal side too. People like people who agree with them. People like people they can agree with. People like people who, you know, have their same viewpoints. That's just law of attraction, okay? But let's just be honest. These white conservatives don't really like you for being black people. They say they don't see color. They say we just look at you as a human being. Trust me, they look at you as a human being as long as you side with them, okay? As long as you're caping for them, as long as you're getting paid by them. Black conservatives swear up and down this is not about ulterior motives like money and whatnot, but let's just be real, you're getting paid and that's what you like. And even if you do agree with some of the things you agree with, okay, let's just be honest, the only reason you're getting propped up is because you're siding with conservative white values. That's why they like you. As long as you follow suit and agree with them, as long as you don't talk about Black Lives Matter and the systems of racism, white supremacy that start making them feel guilty or feel bad about being white or something, you know what I'm saying? Then they like you. They don't like you as a person, but they like that you cape for them. And look what they did to Stacey Dash. I don't really hear too much about her. They fired her from Fox. Once they got what they wanted, she was out, okay? And even if that had nothing to do with anything political, still look what happened. They kicked Omarosa out, and guess what they did? They tried to play up that angry black woman stereotype on her. They don't care about you. This is what I mean by you really think you're getting something over the fence. They don't care about you. You're saying that, what I find funny about black conservatives is that you say that the main reason you left the liberal side is because they were showing you fake love and that they really don't care about you and that they weren't getting anything done for you. But then you really think you're going to gain something on the other side. They don't care about you. Another thing too I noticed is that they will say because Democrats and liberals didn't do anything for them that Republicans are going to get something done for them. You know, Candace Owens is saying, oh, are we such punks that we can't try anything different? And look, I understand when you've been doing the same thing for so long and it doesn't work, it's time to try something different. But the difference is here, we actually know that nothing is going to change on the Republican conservative side. We know nothing is going to change for us. They don't care. And another thing too, what I don't like is that they like to bring up self-sufficiency. Oh, I see it in the comments section. Democrats want you to think what they want you to think. The conservatives and Republicans just want you to think. Oh no, they want you to think as long as it sides with their viewpoints. Because the minute you start talking about racism, white supremacy, and the problems that both sides or their side specifically has caused you, whether it be through history or in the present day, they don't like you. Because I could say up here and say, I don't vote Democrat, but I don't vote Republican, and I don't agree with conservative views. They don't like you. So I'm so sick of everybody trying to just pinpoint one side when both sides have had their flaws. Another thing I noticed with the black conservatives is that a lot of their viewpoints on why they became conservative always tie and come back to money and economics. It's a lot of economics based stuff. Now, take the humanitarian side out of it, you know, and about Second Amendment rights and whatnot. Take that out of it. A lot of what I hear when it comes to self-sufficiency and not playing victim and, you know, not always talking about racism, white supremacy and finding your pathway to success. A lot of times the end result is always economics. Oh, I finally achieved economic success and Democrats haven't done anything. The way to be economically successful, I came from the lowest of the low and now I'm at the highest of the high, or I'm successful in my own right. And that's why I'm conservative, because, you know, liberals just teach you to play victim. And in some cases that is true. Liberals teach you to play victim, and all you need to do is work hard and pull yourselves up by your bootstraps because I did it and now you can do it too. And look, there is some truth in that. However, they fail to realize not everyone has a good place to start. Not everyone has a bootstrap to pull. Not everyone can start. This is why I don't also like when white conservatives who started from the bottom want to say, hey, I grew up dirt poor and now I'm here, so if I could do it, you can too. But I'm saying some of you white conservatives have a level of privilege. How many opportunities are being given to you compared to how many opportunities given to Black people or people of color or people who are marginalized, okay? There is a correlation. I'm not saying nothing is possible, okay? I do agree that things are possible, okay? And you do have to put your best foot forward. But let's just be honest. Who is getting up there faster? Who is succeeding faster? Who is succeeding more? Sometimes there is a level of privilege that plays into it that most people of color, most marginalized groups of people, and most black people don't get. So if we do get an opportunity, yeah, we're going to celebrate it. But let's just be honest. It's not just, oh, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and things can happen. Black people have been doing that for years. And in some cases, we are just tired of trying to work hard without getting anything in return, with barely getting anything in return. And I do agree in 2019 that we have a little bit more leeway to actually make strides for ourselves. But that's not always the case with everybody. And not everybody is playing victim when they say the system of racism, white supremacy is holding us back in a lot of ways, okay? Again, with racism, white supremacy, one of the things I don't like about Black conservatives is that they blame Black oppression solely on Black individual irresponsibility and lack of self-sufficiency, and they really think that our problems, especially nowadays, are solely our fault and not the problems of racism, white supremacy that have, been passed down so many years, so many generations. Generational wealth, I do believe in 2019 and beyond, can be attainable and can start now. However, it has not been easy, especially with conservative policies that make it hard for us. A lot of you guys think that because you've made it, that for some reason it can apply to everyone. Not everything that's good for the goose is good for the gander. Not everything, okay? Just because it may have worked for you does not necessarily mean that same plan is going to work for everybody. Keyword everybody. It can work for a few others. It can work for a good amount of people, but does it work for everybody, okay? And look, in life, you're not going to get 100%. That's just facts, okay? However, I do think that if you're going to tell us you did it so we can do it too, put us on to some game. Give us some pointers, give us some tips. Tell us, how we can get in. And if we agree with it and agree to take those notes, because not everyone will agree, or it may not work for everyone. If you're going to say, if you did it, then we can do it too, put us onto some game. All you're doing, from what I hear and what I see, is you blaming us for not necessarily, putting our best foot forward. And there are some of us who are putting our best foot forward, okay? Another thing I can't stand about them is the fact that they always think because no policies after voting Democrats in office have really come out to help change the Black community, they feel like, okay, now we're going Republican and they're going to create some policies that change us. No, for the most part, they've created policies that harm you. And let's talk about the whole history of Democrat and Republican for a minute. I hear a lot of conservatives, white and Black alike, saying, hey, guess what? Back then, it was the Democrats that wanted racism. It was the Democrats that voted to keep slavery alive. But guess what? The party switched. So even though Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, at a certain point in history, the party switched after him. So the Republicans back then would be the Democrats now. And now if you really want to say that Democrats are not innocent or Republicans are not innocent, Abraham Lincoln made a quote that if he were to give power to a certain group, he would give it to the white race. So I want you Democrats and Republicans, especially you Republicans and Black conservatives, to say something about that. There's no win here. None of you are innocent. But yet and still, Black conservatives want to just point fingers solely at white liberals. And let's talk about the whole handout situation. A lot of them want to say we play victim and we're always acting for government handouts, like when you talk about welfare and whatnot. Your whole point for leaving or Blexiting is because you could not take the BS on that side. You vote constantly. You voted for Obama and he didn't solve your problems in 8 years. You voted for these Democratic candidates for so long and you don't like what's going on, or you haven't gotten or seen anything being done for the Black community, okay? All right, so nothing got done for the Black community and you're going on the other side in hopes that things will change for the Black community. Isn't that you also asking for a handout, but on another level? See, this is why the Republicans sell you a dream saying it's always about individual responsibility. And some of you same white and Black conservatives alike are living some of the poorest quality of life. But you want traditional American values. You're at the lowest of the low. Some of you are on food stamps. Some of you white conservatives are on food stamps. That's why some of you Trump supporters were worried that you were going to lose your Meals on Wheels, okay? You were on government assistance in some way, shape, or form because you live in rural areas. But when black people ask for that or need that, or inner city people need that, it's asking for a handout. Aren't you just as much asking for a handout? But because you don't hide behind liberal stuff, or you don't call yourself liberal, or you don't focus on liberal programs, for some reason that makes everyone else bad and you innocent. This is another thing why I don't like conservatism, because a lot of these conservative people really think they make the rules on what is right, moral, righteous, and they like to throw religion into it. Okay, that's the thing with the whole Planned Parenthood and whatnot. Oh, they're anti-abortion, and you know, they really have some of these new wave, new age young black conservatives fooled, especially the black women, by saying that, okay, Planned Parenthood was designed to kill black babies and for population control against black women. And although I'm very critical of Planned Parenthood, I also think that it's good to have clinics and access to things like rape consultation and contraceptive. Planned Parenthood is not just an abortion clinic, and I understand that it's well known for that, and there's a lot of abortions that do take place, but let's just be real. 9 times out of 10, women are not aborting babies that they want. They're not aborting babies that some of you men out there who are encouraging anti-abortion are taking care of. Some of you guys are anti-abortion, but are you going to be taking care of the kids that you're saying you don't want these women to abort? What about the cases of rape and incest? I do not like that ban in Alabama where they're going to criminalize women for terminating a pregnancy on the sense of, or the case of rape or incest. And then you're going to hide behind religion and stuff like that. I really cannot fathom it. But I guarantee, this is how I know that Planned Parenthood, this anti-abortion thing that they're trying to throw around, does not concern black women. Because if there was a case of rape or incest happening in the black community, these conservatives don't care. They turn a blind eye. They demonize black people and black men for it. But then again, they want to say, oh, we're anti-abortion, and they'll use that. See, this is why I know black women who follow the conservative mindset are sheeple. I notice a lot of women just follow things. We just follow, and we don't necessarily think for ourselves sometimes, and we just blindly follow men, believing that it's going to work in our favor sometimes. Okay, but aside from that, the Republicans, the Democrats did not care when black women were aborting their babies for population control. If you claim that the Democrats don't care about us and that's why they're pushing Planned Parenthood for you to abort babies, Republicans don't care. They do not care. They like when you're on their side, but they do not care that you're aborting your babies. They don't necessarily want to see a full black family household. They don't. Because they were silent about these issues for the most part until it came time to vote for Trump, and they're like, guess what? Planned Parenthood, started by Margaret Sanger, used eugenics to try to get population control for the black community. But let's stop acting like you cared so much that you were always mentioning this. Okay? Only when you needed to fuel your agenda did you want to start warning black women. But you never cared. You never cared. And look, I am not pro-abortion, but I am pro-safe health. I am pro-health care. I am pro, what if you do need to terminate your pregnancy for whatever reason? Because it could be life-threatening to you or that baby. Are you going to hide behind religion and stuff? What if it was life-threatening? And let's just be honest, one of the reasons that you have abortion clinics and things like Planned Parenthood is because women were giving themselves or abortions or trying to cause miscarriages by, I think I heard, like drinking bleach or something like that, or using the old-fashioned coat hanger. You know what I'm saying? They were trying to do all of that. And that could do some damage to the mother, the person carrying, And I do agree, like, I wouldn't be surprised if there is an agenda for population control amongst, Black women, people of color, poor women, LGBTQ women. I would not be surprised. But at the same time, like, it's not all about we love Planned Parenthood because we support abortion and we're just pro-abortion. I'm just pro-health and pro-safe safety of the baby. And let's just be real. The thing about pro-choice, it's not solely pro-abortion. It's a choice. I find it funny how Republicans and conservatives, they're all about choice, but they don't like choices that don't agree with them, even if it's progressive. If a choice is progressive, but they don't agree with it, they're not here for it. I think a lot of conservative views tend to be very regressive, but I do see some points that make a lot of sense. And I'm going to get into that later. For example, pro-choice. If I chose Say if I chose to abort a baby or terminate a pregnancy, that's a choice. If I chose to keep that child, that is a choice. I chose to do that. And it may sound simple and not a good analogy, but that's the point of pro-choice. You made a choice for what you should do with your child or with your pregnancy. You chose. But my biggest thing about Black conservatives I don't like is when I see Black people wearing MAGA hats, and they could take that meaning to mean whatever, but when I see them wearing MAGA hats, knowing what that truly stands for is it's basically just a whiter, straighter, more cisgender, male-dominated America. They really think that, you know, they can be just as American as white folks and that they can love the flag and be patriotic and, you know, just love America the same way white folks do. And trust me, I think every Black person wants to, or almost every Black person wants to, but let's just be real. Their version or their definition of make America great again does not include you or does not include your liberation. If you're going to follow suit with them and talk about, you know, not talk about Black Lives Matter and side with them and, you know, support extremist or even not so extremist conservative views, they like you for that. But their version of make America great again does not include you. Look, America is only great when it comes to opportunity, and I will give it that. But it's not great when it comes to social injustice and racial injustice, LGBTQ injustice, women's rights injustice. It's not great when it comes to that. Okay, so there are a lot of things that make America not so great, but there are some things that do make America great. Let's just be honest. Some of you people claiming that you want to leave and, you know, go back to your African roots or leave and go back to your country and stuff like that. Let's just be real. If you left, you would probably miss America in a heartbeat. A lot of you guys who claim we need to go, a lot of you guys claim that you can't stand America anymore. You realize you have no way out of it. You have nothing out of this. And I'm not saying some people who have left haven't found pathway to success. I'm not saying that, but I am saying a lot of you guys really would not consider leaving. Even if you have, you would not be moving out anytime soon. You're not going anywhere. Now, I'm going to get into the pros of the conservative Black Party and what I actually think that, you know, they have something going on here. Okay. They are not wrong when they say that Democrats pander to us for our votes and don't get anything done. And I have to admit, lately in recent years, I have seen Democrats really use words and trigger words like racism, white supremacy in order to garner Black votes, or even non-Black, non-white votes. You know what I'm saying? They've tried to do all that to talk about, you know, it's all racism, white supremacy, and they're not wrong, but I do think they use those words as a way to pander to us to get our votes. And let's just be real. Republicans are pandering to you just as much as the Democrats are, okay? That's what politicians do. They pander. And I do agree that some do mean well, but, you know, there are those that you claim who pander to us with no plan or promise to fulfill what they said they would do. They exist on both ends of the spectrum, okay? The difference between Black liberals and Black conservatives is that, like I said, I see a lot more caping on the Black conservative side for white conservative morals and conservative morals than I see them calling out. The difference that I see with Black liberals is that they're actually calling everybody out. Everybody can get this work. Black conservatives do make a point when they say that there are some Black liberals or there are Democrats that force Black people to play victim. There is a level of victim mentality on the Black liberal side and on Black people's side, okay? I'm not going to lie. There are some people who have the leeway if they just put their best foot forward to actually make it and try, but they don't do that, and they just want to blame the system of racism and white supremacy all day. They just want to get on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and just post stuff and talk about racism, white supremacy. There was this one girl I actually saw on Instagram who made a live video and talked about, oh, the cracker. And I'm looking at her and you could tell she's type Hotep, okay? You could tell that this girl was a type Hotep. And yeah, she's all about supporting Black businesses. On her page, she supported Black businesses and she even supported mine. But I had this conversation with her. I posted about how someone did something or said something racist towards someone I knew in college. And I said, I'm like, really? Are we starting Black History Month off like this? You know, calling someone monkey and stuff like that. That was what happened, and it's over some disagreement about Trump. Okay, this girl did something racist, and we were all gathered, and we're like, you know, we're not gonna take this. And this girl, after I posted, the girl on Instagram, she was like, well, I don't know why you're complaining because you chose to go to school with them. But like, I went to college, and let me tell you, mind you, this girl said she never went to college. She never had. So I'm saying you're judging me, or practically judging me, for saying, okay, why am I upset about feeling like I'm seeing racism on my campus because I chose to go to school where there were white kids, and this would never happen at an HBCU. But you've never had a college experience. This is one of the things, like I say, yeah, I see the BS happening on the liberal side, okay? And I'm going to get into this later. But they're not wrong when they say that, yes, some of us really have allowed the Democrats to fuel us with this victim mentality. You know, vote for me because the other side is racist. As if they don't have their problems with their bigotry and, you know, their anti-blackness as well. So, look, I don't see any side being perfect, okay? Especially the Republican side, okay? They say that the Democrats have never really created policies in order to help the Black community, and, you know, nothing has changed in the Black inner cities and stuff like that. Nothing has really changed for Black folks after voting for Democrats constantly. And I understand this need to try something different to see, okay, maybe I have luck on the other side. But I'm here to tell you that the Republicans never planned to put in policies that try to help you. They never wanted to. If anything, they put in policies that actually harm you, you know, or don't really have your best interest at heart, that come at your expense sometimes. And I'm not saying that you can't, you know, find a way to use it to your benefit. I'm just saying that they don't plan on fixing anything for you. And you could say that's the reason you vote for them, because, you know, they don't let me wait on them. They don't let me, you know, wait on them or rely on them to do anything, and that's fine. But if you're saying that you don't need to rely on anyone or a politician, then by that logic, you just shouldn't be voting. You shouldn't be claiming any party. You shouldn't be considering yourself conservative. You could call yourself independent or moderate even. By that logic, then don't vote at all. If you don't need to rely on anyone, if you claim we rely too much on politicians so much, then don't vote. It's funny how you tell us we rely too much on Democrats and politicians, but yet you're voting for politicians hoping to receive something better. Isn't that you asking for a handout? See why he can't take conservatives seriously? They are right when they say that they have the right to choose, okay? They are not wrong. If they choose to be, you know, the Republican or conservative, they do have a right to do that. But my thing is, you know, I feel like they're also walking into a burning bush. I also think they're walking into a burning building, and they fail to realize it because they're so impulsive and tired and exhausted and angry at Democrats and the Liberal Party. They are definitely not wrong when they talk about extremist liberals. They are definitely not wrong, because sometimes they have a difference of opinion, or they don't agree with excessive social justice warrioring, or they don't agree with, you know, the quote unquote victim mentality that they say liberals have, and some do. But they're not wrong about that, because, you know, I see sometimes you give a difference of opinion, and you don't have to necessarily be conservative or Republican, and that gets you called every name in the book by some of these so-called woke individuals. And I will get into this in my, you know, viewpoints about Black liberals, and they're not wrong, you know. And what I also can agree with them with is Second Amendment rights. Now, I have to say, they have this notion that liberals and Black liberals hate guns, and, you know, they're against Second Amendment rights. I am not. I think most Black people actually don't, you know, actually like the Second Amendment right. They have the right to bear arms. It's just that when we bear arms, we're looked at differently than when, you know, a white person bears arms. You know what I'm saying? And look, I do agree it's really the culture that we have perpetuated and the media has perpetuated about us when it comes to guns. But I am not against the Second Amendment right. I personally think it's okay to own a gun for protection, and if you're a hunter, you know, for hunting. But, you know, I am not against the Second Amendment. I think that's a good thing to have. But the thing is, who is being allowed to receive guns. And also, it's not about gun control, or gun control is not solely about gun restriction. It's about gun safety. With all these mass shootings in the world, and with all these people, especially some of them you find out to be Trump supporters, okay? So this is why I'm saying think twice. This is why you get called coons and bedwenches and whatnot for voting for Trump or being conservative, is because you side with people who make policies and uses rhetoric against certain groups of people, and you realize that you are a part of that group of people, and you think that just because you can agree with 1, 2, 3 things on that side, that for some reason that, you know, this is a proper candidate for you. They don't care about you. But anyway, like I said, gun control is not necessarily about gun restriction and taking away people's guns. That's the stuff, that's the propaganda and the rhetoric that conservatives want to use, because I heard they're getting paid by the NRA. They're getting money through NRA. Don't you know that guns and weapons trafficking is one of the biggest black market smuggling rings? It's like, it's bigger than, second is drugs and third is animals, is on the black market. NRA makes money like that, hand over fist sometimes. The president can make money. That's why they're always talking about guns and guns and guns. And while you think that it's just protecting a Second Amendment right, they have their own agenda. But I'm not against Second Amendment rights. I'm here for it, actually. So they're not wrong when they talk about Second Amendment rights. Because there was one woman, one black conservative woman who's a Second Amendment arms activist. And I think that's okay. I don't think that's necessarily selling out or against, you know, your people. I think most black people are here for the Second Amendment right. But the problem is we've been dealing with so much gun violence that we're trying to find a better way to balance out having a Second Amendment right and just going out of control. Now, I'm actually going to get into my point about black liberals, okay? And I'm going to start with cons, and then I'm going to go into pros. Now, I have to say, one of the things I can't stand, I think it's probably the biggest thing I can't stand about these so-called woke, pro-black, conscious black liberals, is the fact that solely one thing, one disagreement, one slight disagreement, one slight difference in opinion, or, you know, one argument gets you called a coon, gets you called a bedwench, you know, there's a lack of critical thinking in that. There's no dissection, there's no listening to people or hearing them out. There is just, you're a coon, you're a bedwench, you're this and you're that. Now, granted, some people are actually deserving of these titles, okay? But come on, you calling someone a coon and a bedwench. For example, I don't have to necessarily say I'm all lives matter, or I don't have to say that I'm voting for Trump. I just have to say that black people, maybe we can not always look at racism, white supremacy every single day of our lives, because sometimes that leads to a poor quality of life, and some of you guys are losing your sanity over it. That alone, by some of these extremist, liberal, woke, conscious black folks, gets you called a coon. Holding someone in the community who claims to be so conscious, like Umar Johnson and Paris Milan and the Nature Boys of the world, holding them accountable and calling them out and calling them frauds for what they are, that gets you yourself called a coon and a bedwench, and you're just hating on other black people and you're trying to bring a black person down. That itself, and I'm not going to lie, some of you are very extreme in your criticism with some people, or you just can't take criticism yourself. Some of you guys are so extreme in your criticism. If you feel someone has said something wrong, even if it's overt or covert or very underlying, somebody will say something you slightly don't agree with, or you'll find problems with, or you'll dig deep and think, oh, there's a problem there. And, you know, sometimes I do it too. You guys will go off on that person. Your criticism is very extreme, and sometimes, you know, like I said, you lack critical thinking sometimes, or you lack understanding. Another thing I don't like is that you guys want to be all talk a lot, and you don't take the time to listen. Some of you extremists, keyword extremists, you guys just do so much talking, and there's not enough listening in the community, as what I'm starting to see. And it's turning people off of this liberal movement. It's one of the reasons you see a quote-unquote Blexit from this movement, because we're getting tired. I say you guys have an aggression for progression, and I see this in the quote-unquote woke conscious community sector of the black side of the internet. I see that, and I see a lot of people pushing people out. I see there are some trolls, so beware of that. I see people, cursing people out for having a different perspective or trying to look at all sides instead of just a tunnel vision side of the perspective. And the same thing goes for the Black conservatives, okay? Or the conservatives in general. They don't want to see other sides. They want to see their side, okay? And this is why I became moderate, because I was able to look at both sides, stand in the middle, and kind of, see. And, in a way, this is what I see what the independents do too. They see both sides, or they see all sides of a perspective and can point out pros and cons and whatnot. This is why you hear me use the term granted a lot. One of the biggest things, and what I've started to see now with some of these Black liberals or so-called woke folks in the Black community, is that they really think that they have a moral compass. They really think that because they hide things under spirituality or big words like agenda and coon and bedwench and, Uncle Tom when they call somebody out, or they say, they talk about racism, white supremacy all day, that for some reason, and because they're a part of a marginalized groups, they believe that some reason that they don't have flaws themselves. I see this all the time with these so-called hotep woke Black men who will, have a lot of flaws themselves, but they just want to point out the flaws of Black women, the Black LGBTQ, the so-called fake woke white liberal people, the evil racist white man, everything is everybody else's fault, not theirs. They really act like they have some type of moral compass, and that being a victim of all these isms automatically makes them moral and righteous. And it's the same thing with the conservatives, just in a different way. They really think that they can slap on the label Christian, they can slap on the label anti-abortion, they can slap on the label pro-life, and for some reason that makes them so righteous. Or the fact that they don't agree with LGBTQ activity or same-sex marriage, that for some reason they're so righteous. Like, that's the problem. No one is fully righteous. This is why I became moderate. Again, more socially liberal, just a little more moderate. Another thing I noticed that I don't like with the Black liberal side, or the so-called woke pro-Black liberal side, is because they really take the conversation of racism, white supremacy too far, and they like to dig too deep. Sometimes they do like to reach for things that aren't there, and a lot of them feel like because they're so woke that, again, just like they'll slap on the label marginalized or Black and play the oppression Olympics. Sometimes some of them would really like to slap on the label woke and pro-Black and then think that, for some reason that they are so righteous. This is one of the reasons I called out Paris Milan, is because I feel like they take the conversation just way too far sometimes. And although what they say does hold validity, it really just seems like somewhat of a stretch. Like, they'll just reach for something that probably isn't there. And look, I'll heed words. I will heed words and say, you know what, you may have a point right there, but let's just wait how this plays out. Sometimes I feel like they pull things out of their asses sometimes, excuse my French, because, they need to get a point across, and because they need to enact their anger and their resentment towards white people and racism, white supremacy. Another thing too, with these so-called woke Black quote-unquote liberals, a lot of them are all talk and no action. A lot of them are a bunch of Twitter activists. A lot of them are a bunch of, well, not a lot, so let me take that back, but you have a good number of them that are some Twitter activists, some Instagram activists, some YouTube activists like Umar Johnson, who will just stay online and talk about racism, white supremacy, the nature boys of the world. And I guarantee these people, some of them will hide under avatars on Twitter and Instagram, and they will just post about racism, white supremacy all day. Honestly, if they're not really talking about, business, economics, and how we can improve, whether with or without government assistance, or just without anybody and just be independent, unless they're talking about ways to improve the Black community economically and, posting positivity stories and positive stories about Black people, I am not concerned with their racism, white supremacy talk 100% of the time, because I just feel like this is coming from a bunch of disgruntled people who really are just upset and have nothing better to do with their lives. Like that same girl who wanted to argue with me about college. I can tell she was just nothing but an angry Black person and a bum. Like, you're telling me that don't be surprised that you're experiencing racism at an all-white college. This would never happen at an HBCU, but you've never been to college. Seriously, some of these people make absolutely no sense. And then they want to post and say things like, don't go to college. You don't have to go to college because some of the biggest Black millionaires and billionaires never went to college, but you never went to college. So where's your millions of dollars? Where's your Black billions and millions? Another thing that made me get turned off from this so-called woke Black liberal movement is that they really give wokeness, the extremist liberals or the extremist black woke folks, especially on the internet, give wokeness a bad look. They give wokeness and pro-blackness and, you know, liberalism just a really bad look, and it starts to mimic the same things that they claim that they're fighting against. And again, last thing you need is for your movement and your plight to look ridiculous. People already don't take your plight seriously. You don't need to give them a reason. Another thing, the biggest thing, probably this is the one that really made me give black liberals and black woke folks a side eye, okay? There are some of them, some of you hate hearing this, but some of you really do get so caught up on racism, white supremacy, that you do play the so-called victim in this, or you do forget or just do not live a good quality of life. There are some people who I look at, especially on the internet, who are so social justice warring and so pro-black and, you know, so social justice, that they forget to live their life. You look at the condition that they're in, and some of them are just living the poorest quality of life. And they shame people, whether they care about the community or not. They shame people who are actually living their life like it's golden, okay? They actually shame people for saying that, you know, I don't want to get too involved in this because it's not conducive to a hypergamous or good quality lifestyle. So Chrissy, who says, this is why I don't show my face, because you're not messing up my life. And I have to agree with her. I really have to agree with her, because, you know, yeah, like at first, some of these woke people, these nature boys of the world, and these extremist, quote unquote, liberals, or these extremist people in general, they will shame you for wanting to live a happy, good lifestyle where they can't get in. Because some of you guys are mad at Jay-Z for partnering up with NFL when we're supposed to be protesting, or when he called out the NFL before. Some of you guys want to get mad at him for protesting and calling him a capitalist and, you know, calling him a sellout. But let's just be real. If most of us were on Jay-Z's level, we wouldn't be complaining. And look, I don't like it when people use things like victim mentality and we play victim, and, you know, all you have to do is work hard and pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, and, you know, racism only affects the poor, like Jason Ishlock says. I would say the other word, but you know what I mean. I don't like it when they say that, because it comes off as very dismissive and, you know, redirecting the finger at us because they don't want to take accountability, and you know who they are, okay? But at the same time, I do agree. Some of you so-called woke folks, you're really just bunch of lazy bums who are pissed off that you're not financially where you want to be or where you need to be. You're upset at being poor. You're upset you're disgruntled. You're destitute. You're at the bottom. Life isn't going the way you want, or the way you want it, or the way you need it to go. You know, you're just pissed off at the world. And look, you're not wrong when you talk about racism, white supremacy being the obstacle, but let's just be honest. Some of you guys use that as a crutch to just not do anything with your lives. Like, some of you will stay wallowing in your self-pity and wallowing in the fact that racism, white supremacy has caused so many problems. And yes, it does. I will never deny that. But some of you will literally stay stuck in a rut and stuck in a box just complaining about racism, white supremacy all day. And I do not believe that we should stop talking about it, or we should never bring it up, or we shouldn't call it out. I believe we should call it out, but let's just be honest. Some of you guys are nitpickers. Some of you guys will dig and search and reach for something that is not there, and then just call out racism, white supremacy, especially you Umar Johnsons of the world who just need those likes, clicks, and views on YouTube. Some of the ways that you want people to be woke, and some of the ways that you guys want to be woke, and some of the ways that you guys, you know, enact liberalism and what I call your aggression for progression is very unrealistic, again, inconducive to a hypergamous or good quality lifestyle. And some of you guys, your aggression for progression, again, turns people off from the movement, even people who were actually liberal and who claim that they left because it was getting too much. And this is one of the reasons I slowly backed out, because I cared, but one, it can be burdensome, it can be exhausting, it can make you feel hopeless, and it could make you sacrifice something that you actually want. And then you realize that some of these people in the community are actually frauds, don't care, don't lift a finger behind the computer screen, and then they want you to do all the work. It becomes cultish, okay? Just like the conservative side, it becomes cultish on the liberal side too. And in some cases, it actually mimics the oppressive mannerisms and behaviors that we claim to be fighting against. Like, for example, the colorism, the sexism, the misogyny, the homo and transphobia, the xenophobia. Some black people act like you're not xenophobic, but you are, okay? The xenophobia we see on the so-called woke black liberal side, okay? Some of you guys have that. And look, let me put this in here. Do not confuse these angry, resentful, armchair, revolutionary SJWs on the internet who really don't do anything outside of the computer screen or off the computer screen with actual woke, conscious, pounding the pavement, doing something, putting their best foot forward black liberals. Those are the black liberals I actually respect, okay? Do not confuse the ones that are acting a fool on the internet with the actual real ones, okay? And you could say this applies to the conservatives too, okay? Don't confuse us with the bad ones. But the difference between the so-called black conservatives who are not like the bad ones and the black liberals who are not like the bad ones is the fact that the black liberals who are not like the bad ones are the ones actually calling out everybody, okay? They don't just stick to one side. They call out everybody. Okay, the problem I have with some of these so-called woke liberal black folks is that some of them, whether you believe it or not, you guys have a savior complex, okay? You guys all have a savior complex, and that shows so much because when Jay-Z went into the NFL, or when, people like Steve Harvey don't do something you like, or, don't do the things you want them to do in the way you want them to do it, or they don't say what you want to hear, all of a sudden they're sellouts, they're coons, they're this, they're that. They sold out a long time ago. And like I said, if we were all on their level, we wouldn't be saying anything, okay? But yes, we're always kind of looking for a savior. This is why you still have Paris Milan stands. This is why you still have Umar Johnson stands and people who like Nature Boy, okay? They get all these views, likes, clicks, and follows, and people following them. And how people are still following Umar after a lot of things have been proven about him or shown about him, I don't know. It's beyond me. But you have this savior complex, like, oh my God, he's going to build a school. And the more and more you realize it, like Leslie Wagner Wilson, who escaped Jonestown with Jim Jones, she said as time wore on, you realize there was no future in Jonestown. And it's kind of like this with Umar Johnson. As time wears on, most of us believe that there is no school that's going to be built and he's scamming us. Okay, now I didn't donate anything, but But on another note, yes, the black people who still follow the people like Umar Johnson have this savior complex in which we feel that one thing is going to happen and people are going to snap their fingers and solve all our problems. And I have to call out the conservatives on this because they're kind of doing the same thing with Trump. They feel like by voting for Trump or voting Republican, things are going to change. But isn't that also having a savior complex and a savior mentality? We put Obama in office for 8 years. He didn't solve anything. And because I voted on the sole fact that he looked like me, and like a lot of us did, but I couldn't vote because by the time I was 18, he was in his second term, but whatever. And, you voted on him based off the fact that he was going to change things for you, and you didn't get that, or in your eyes, you didn't get that. Then you're going to vote the Republican, you're going to vote Trump, you're going to say make America great again, as if it's going to work for you. Again, they don't plan on doing anything for you either. So technically, you're actually looking for a handout as much as you claim the liberals are. Some of you black liberals, so-called black liberals, you always talk about building and we need to do this and we need to do that. And you never build. You never build. You just talk. You're all talk, no action. And that's just what annoys me, especially with the men. I see this a lot with the men. We got to build. We got to do this. We got to do things for the black community. I see this all over the internet, and I don't really see you building, or at least giving us some evidence that you're building, or at least, again, putting us on to some game on how we build. This is why I like pages on Instagram like Start a Black Business. They give you information on where to go, what to do, how to start, okay? This is why I like black economics pages on Instagram, okay? Some may be unrealistic, but others are actually realistic. They're giving you pointers on how to do it. Now, I'm going to get into the things that I absolutely love about the black liberal side, okay? Here's what I actually like about the black liberal side, okay? Unlike a lot of conservatives or black conservatives, they do not sweep issues of racism, white supremacy under the rug, okay? They are actually pointing out injustice, okay? They are actually, pointing out the issues that we face that are real, okay? That's one thing I can give it to you. That's one of the things, even if I don't agree with their extremist points, for those who are extremists, I actually have to say, okay, you hold validity in the things that you say. You hold validity here. This makes sense here. You're right. You're not wrong when you talk about these issues. Okay, so at least I can say that at least they acknowledge it. At least they don't sweep it under the rug and pretend like it doesn't exist and all you need to do is work hard and your life will be better. And this is why you get called coons and bedwenches and traitors and race traitors and whatnot, because you kind of go against your own cause and your own interest. And this is why people sometimes think you're just doing it for the money. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being liberal and living a good lifestyle. Sometimes liberals will shame other people who are quote unquote liberal, who live a good quality lifestyle or have a lot of money or something. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Because let's just be real. If you were making it, you probably wouldn't be saying anything. But I do think it's good to give back. I do think it's good to not be greedy or selfish or to basically put money and a lifestyle over the well-being of other people. However, I don't think you should sacrifice wanting a good lifestyle or wanting a financially secure, free, and abundant lifestyle because, you know, you have to be so about the cause. Like, come on, we all deserve to live a good and proper lifestyle. And I do believe that individually, we can get there. I probably mentioned this before, but like I said, I feel like what is right about the Black liberal side, or what I'm seeing with more Black liberals nowadays, you know, the ones who aren't crazy, okay? The ones who actually have common sense, all right? I see with them that they actually call all problematic people out. They call everybody out. Even if sometimes I think they go too far, they call everybody out. I don't necessarily see, or at least Black independents, they do this too. They call out everybody, okay? They don't just, sometimes they don't sugarcoat, keyword sometimes, but well, most times they don't sugarcoat. With what I'm seeing now, I see more Black liberals calling out so-called white liberals, white conservatives, Black liberals, everybody out if they feel like they are doing something wrong. Even if I feel like they are reaching a bit, I see them call everybody out. Now, unlike these so-called woke pro-Black folks, okay, that sit up on the internet like the nature boys of the world, there are actual Black liberal woke folks who are actually out there doing something, pounding the pavement, putting in that work, creating policies that are going to work in our favor, so they claim, of course. But there are actually Black liberals who are out there doing something, okay? There are those who are trying to enact real change, and it's not just some liberal propaganda that is all about getting votes towards Democrats in the Liberal Party. And I do have to call this out. I do think, you know, there are some Black liberal folks who really have this undying loyalty to the Democratic Party as if some things are going to change. But let's be real, certain things have changed, okay? It's just that because because in a snap of a finger it didn't work out for you, that for some reason that nothing has changed. I'm not going to lie, they pander to us without enacting real change that we can see firsthand. But let's just be honest, there are some changes that happen slowly but surely. See, a lot of them want to talk about unemployment was lower for Black people than ever, but let's just be honest, that was because of Obama. All you guys who claim Obama didn't do anything because what? All that stuff that you wanted reversed in 400 years, 400 years of problems that weren't reversed in 8 years, you say, okay, I'm tired of it. Doesn't that make you type lazy or type impatient and stuff like that? Look, I would be happy to see if 400 years of problems go away in 8 years. I would be happy for that. But unfortunately, we have to take a step back and say that's unrealistic. But there are people who are actually in certain positions, in especially local politics, that are enacting change. Okay? So let's say, for instance, I live in New York. I live in New York City. New York City is not the most perfect place in the world. We saw what happened with the exonerated 5. Okay, it's not the most perfect place in the world. However, I have seen New York and New York City put out more change in recent years, or we're very progressive in certain ways before and ahead of other states. And sometimes it is a local thing. One thing I notice about whether you're liberal, conservative, you know, Black liberal, Black conservative, one thing I notice about us in our community, we're always focused on who the president is. A lot of us don't pay attention to our local politics. I actually used to work for a local politician, and they never like to be called a politician. They like to be called a public servant. But they were out there pounding the pavement. They were out there in places that they weren't even in charge of, certain districts that they weren't even in charge of. They were actually putting in that work. And guess what? They're a liberal Democrat. But let's just be real. A lot of us have our own conservative views. A lot of us have certain conservative views, even if we tend to be liberal. But some of the liberal people, even though they do have their conservative views, they at least know that there is a bigger picture, you know, and people need help. Don't think that just because the president doesn't solve all the problems, that for some reason things weren't changing. If you think about it, the president, believe it or not, only has a limited source of power. And let's be honest, some of you new wave black conservatives don't realize that Congress kept getting in his way. Look at healthcare that you actually, believe it or not, can benefit from. He shut down the government. It was so many things he was trying to get done. How do you know he wasn't trying to get anything done for you? You see what I mean? See what I mean, that they don't care about you? That was one of their biggest fears, that Obama was actually going to do something to help black folks. And look, I'm not saying that there isn't anyone on the liberal side who doesn't feel that way too, or the Democratic side that doesn't feel that way too, okay? People within the group have their own disagreements, okay? We get that. I get that. However, let's just be honest. Obama was trying to get certain things done. How do you know he wasn't trying to get certain things done for black people? Let's just be honest. And again, what about your local politics? A lot of you guys are not focused on who the mayor is, who the senator is, who the assemblyman and woman is, who the congressman and woman is, who the councilman and woman is. You're just focused on who the president is. And then you wonder why nothing gets done for you in 8 years. You really thought Obama had a magic wand? I do think there is a level of anti-blackness that black conservatives have, where they were judging Obama so much like white conservatives and white folks were. And look, everyone went hard on Obama. I don't know if so many people, you know, I don't know if Trump supporters are saying Trump hasn't done anything for me. So I feel like the criticism was harder on Obama and would have been hard on, you know, someone like Hillary Clinton and a woman or an LGBTQ person to get stuff done. But Trump, or people like Trump and Reagan, can stay in office for like 4 to 8 years, do nothing, or do the same thing they said Obama has done, and they wouldn't get criticized. I see some Republicans, and I had suite mates who were actually Republicans and who liked Reagan, and they basically said, like, nothing is wrong with Reagan, nothing is wrong. He turned a blind eye to the AIDS crisis and, you know, was very, very passive. He and his wife were very, very passive of the whole drugs and crack epidemic. You know, the same ones they punished us for but gave white people rehabilitation for. But of course, to conservatives, we just pull out the race card a lot. No, you clearly see there is a correlation here. See, that's what I'm saying. They're so nonchalant, blind-eyed towards injustice. And this is why I don't believe in the whole colorblind thing nowadays, because it just comes off as you're sweeping the issues under the rug. But I also have to give criticism to some black people who claim to be so liberal. Some of you guys really need to get on this quote-unquote respectability politics train, because some of you guys claim that conservative black folks are just bougie black folks. And look, I hear some of the ways some of these black folks speak. You could tell they're kind of like suit and tie, classy, you know, some of that stuff is good. Like, don't turn a blind eye to class and, you know, quote-unquote respectability politics that can actually help benefit you, and just dismiss it as just a bunch of bougie black folks. Like, I'm tired of that. You know what I'm saying? And personally, I don't have too many conservative views. I don't think I have any conservative views. Well, that's a lie, because I probably do, but I don't realize it. But I don't have too many conservative views, but I'm still about, you know, being classy. I'm still about speaking well, articulating well, debunking negative black stereotypes. I'm here for all of that. Stop calling it respectability politics. One thing I notice about some of you liberal black folks, or so-called liberal black folks, even independent black folks, is, you know, you are quick to dismiss things that can actually somewhat benefit you, or very much benefit you, as elitist and respectability politics, because some of you just simply don't want to change. Like, that's another thing about victim mentality that I have a problem with. So those are my thoughts about black liberals and black conservatives. You know, I want you guys to tell me what you think in the comments section. You know, hit that like button if you understand everything I said. I also want to know where you guys stand on the issue. What side do you guys identify with? What parts do you agree with? What parts don't you agree with? If I left anything out on either side, let me know. Whether I respond to it or not, just let me know. So anyway, yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. That's just what I needed to get off my chest. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for just, spending your time with me. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will hopefully see you in the next video. I promise to be coming back with more makeup videos, so please watch all my makeup videos so I can come back with more, because I want to make this about makeup and beauty, and I'm really serious about this, and I just feel like I'm not getting the views on that. So please watch the makeup videos. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.